Hey everyone, I'm Ben Consoli from Go Creative Show.
And I'm Ariel Martinez from the iFilmmaker podcast.
And this is a Go Creative Show iFilmmaker podcast crossover. Ariel, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am great, Ben. Super excited to finally get this going. We've been planning this for a little bit now.
We've been planning it, and then it took about an hour to get it off the ground because of technical issues. And it's pathetic because the whole point of this show is to talk about a project we recently worked on where we had three different crews, one in Miami, one in Orlando, one in Boston, filming a podcast for New Era Caps called NBA City Edition. We had Tyler Herro, Jayson Tatum, and it was hosted by Quentin Richardson. And this whole podcast today is going to be about how the two of us work together to pull a team together, to collaborate across three different cities, and shoot this live podcast for the NBA and New Era.
Hey guys, this is Q Richardson. Thanks for joining me today. This is City Ties, New Era NBA City Edition. We're sitting here chopping it up with Jayson Tatum and Tyler Herro. What was your favorite city to visit and play in?
Like the Staples Center, that's more like an event. That's like a concert.
Staples Center was my favorite arena.
At the end of the day, I was just blessed to be able to go up against LeBron and AD in the finals. I mean, I was mad we lost.
All I really, want to do is bring another championship to the city.
How we managed to pull that job off was quite incredible.
Yes, and I promise you all, it was actually flawless when we, not flawless when we did it the last time.
Not flawless.
Because there was a major hiccup where one of the cameras just shut off like 10 minutes into it. And we had a file get corrupted. There was so much drama going on behind the scenes of this, and we're going to get to all of it. But I first want to talk about really the beginnings of this. Like the first step, when this project came my way, it was through an ad agency called Sleek Machine. And Mike Heid from Sleek Machine, the creative director, is going to come on a little later to talk about the relationship between agency and client, agency and production company, and how important that relationship is. But when this project first came to me, they said, okay, you need to shoot in Miami, Orlando, and Boston. Everybody needs to be speaking together, but you have to have extremely small crews, like 1 or 2 people in each location maximum. And we want to film with professional cameras, but stream through Zoom. It was like everything was being thrown at us. I call you up and I'm like, hey, we need a crew in Orlando, a crew in Miami. What do you do next? Because you know Miami, but you may not necessarily know Orlando.
Right. So Orlando is about 4 hours north of where I'm at. And my first thing is to put out a call on social media, because I do have followers of people that just, that I work with also, or just potential people that are all over the place, to see if they knew anybody or anybody in the Orlando area that has to have the FS7 camera, right? Because, I put in the parameters and it almost immediately I get several people.
We're shooting 2 cameras in Orlando, 2 cameras in Miami, 2 cameras in Boston. And I could handle the Boston crew. You could handle the Miami crew. What is it that you're looking for?
I look for experience. If I'm talking to you saying, hey, we need an FS7, we need HDMI cables, or if you're going to use SDI, you're going to need that converter that goes from SDI. We know that stuff. We need the capture card. We need the laptop. We need the audio to flow through. Whether it's the SDI or the HDMI, we know that the audio does travel through there as well. We need that to go through the Zoom call, right? We need them to not show that. So when I'm explaining this to somebody that is a potential candidate for this job, I need to know, I don't want to hear that they're thinking too much. They need to be knowing exactly what I'm talking about, because a job as intricate as this one, it's obviously it's a big job. I want to be certain that they know exactly what I'm talking about. And you know what? I'll take that over their style, because I knew that we were going to be delegating that live.
That's a good point, because every cinematographer has their own style, clearly.
Yeah.
But like with any shoot, there is a director of photography. There is a creative director. so there was direction coming from the agency that we had to adhere to. So we weren't necessarily looking for someone to bring a unique style to it. We were looking for someone that knew how to do this kind of virtual, remote kind of production. I mean, and you're seeing this a lot. I mean, since COVID, the ability to do these streams through Zoom have become more and more familiar to crews. Do they really know how to do this, or are they just going to say they know and then spend the next 2 weeks figuring it out?
You know, there are some people that I was looking at and they're asking me, how do you get the video feed into the Zoom? Obviously, I don't want to work with, no offense, but somebody that has at least done this before.
I can appreciate people saying, yes, I know how to do it, and then figuring it out. I've done that. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, you may, it looks a lot worse on you if you're saying, yes, you can do something, and then if you give that impression that you can do it, and then you mess up, then you really look horrible, because not only did you make a mistake, which can happen, but you also lied. So it's just going to look far worse. But so I'm curious too, just your thought. So let's say a project comes your way and you really can't do it. What do you say? I mean, is it stupid to just say, no, I really don't know how to do it? Is there a different way to kind of admit you don't know how, but also tell them what you do know, so that maybe you can get another job? Like, what's the strategy? Yeah.
So for me, it happened, I think, late last year. It was a job that required heavy animations, and it was
there you go.
It was like maybe 15 to 20% regular editing, and it's for a feature, but it was heavy animation and graphic animation, which I just dabble in After Effects. So no, but I said, absolutely, we can. What I said is we can get it done, but I was straightforward, and I said, I have an animator, I have a graphic artist that I'm going to work with on this. I know that guy is legitimately good, and I'm not going to say that I'm going to do it myself. So that's kind of how I would approach it. I would be upfront with the client, letting them know that I can easily handle the editing, and I have a guy that can do the animation, et cetera, et cetera.
And then you're kind of acting as a producer, which is a valuable, asset in and of itself, because they don't necessarily need to be speaking to the person that's doing the job. They just need to be speaking with somebody that can get the job done. Let's talk about the logistics and kind of how we actually got the project off the ground. So these were the challenges we were faced with. We had Jayson Tatum in Boston. We had Tyler Herro in Miami, and we had Quentin Richardson in Orlando. And we needed to have 2-person crews, 2 cameras and audio in each location, all going into Zoom, all being recorded independently on each other's cameras, but then also sent to Zoom so that we could have a fluid conversation between the 3 of them.
Right.
That the ad agency and the client can see and watch as they go.
Right.
So we're shooting FS7s, so you got to have 2 FS7s there. What is the additional equipment needed to get that feed into Zoom so that we can have something clean and sent out to the client? What else did you guys need on your sets to get this done?
So just to clarify, it was only the main A camera that needed to go into Zoom. So
yes,
if they required both cameras that went into Zoom, now we're looking at a switcher, which would not crazy complicate things, but it would add an additional obstacle that is, that we definitely have to prepare for. So it was only the A cam that needed to go in through the Zoom call. So for the audio, and another parameter was, again, they didn't want to see any headphones, which was like, yikes. Okay. Obviously, we cannot have the audio coming out of the laptop because then the microphone would pick it up. So the parameters were, we also need to have the lavalier, right? And an additional boom mic as a backup. And then what we were able to do, at least what I was able to do, is I was able to give you guys the option of which one do you want. The camera is going to record both. The A cam is going to record both on separate channels, but which one do you want to go through Zoom? And I think I don't remember which one we decided on. I think the boom sounded better, but I can't remember now.
Yeah, I think it was the boom.
Yeah, I think it was a setting where the camera gave me the option of which channel, which track did I want to output through the HDMI. One of the things that actually helped us was at the end, because they sent us headphones for them to have, the Beats headphones. Then they said, hey, you know what? We want to promote those headphones. We want them to be wearing them. Beautiful. Connect that via Bluetooth and their Apple products. So at least for me, it helped with my MacBook Pro. They connected perfectly with my computer, and that's how they got their audio. That's how they were able to hear them, and they just speak right into the laptop. And the laptop had to be right under the lens, so we needed a laptop stand, at least for me. We had a laptop stand located right under the camera lens.
Yeah, and that was just so that they could look as close to the camera as possible, but still see the person that they're talking to. So like, I don't have a monitor underneath me now, but they would be looking at the camera and then look down to see the person that they're talking to. And the eye lines were really close.
Yeah.
Perfect world, we would have had a teleprompter and had the laptop feed go through the glass so that you can look right into the lens. But sometimes it's not a perfect world. What are you going to do? And the headphone situation was great because originally we were going to use in-ear, like the little in-ear monitor,
Right.
that news people would wear, or anybody. And those are relatively inexpensive, but they don't sound great, and you still see something in your ear. So they opted to just have the Beats.
Right.
I think they're Power Beats or something. I don't know, but they're like the little. The ones that go right in your ear. They're not like the big headset. They're just the little earbuds. They looked great. They sounded fine. And we were able to promote Beats as well. So that worked out.
Yeah.
What were you using as your capture card?
So I'm using, it's funny because it really doesn't have a name brand on it, but it's essentially the silver Magwell capture card that you'll see on Amazon. I haven't shopped around for capture cards in a long time. This one has been with me for like 3 years now, and it's been perfect. It's never messed up on me. Oh, but that's another thing that I did to prepare. I bought 2 of everything. Even though I was so certain with this capture card that it was not going to fail, I went online and bought another capture card, a different brand, just in case, because knowing our luck, things just happen. And then same thing with the earpieces. I bought 2 of those from 2 different brands, just in case. I had 2 different XLR cables for the boom mic, just in case. But
it's important to have a backup plan. You never know. And I know at least one of the teams was using Camlink, and I believe a Blackmagic Ultra Studio was being used as well. So kind of mixing and matching our capture devices. Let's talk about lighting, because the reality is for some. So we had Chris Loughran, who's my primary DP here in Boston. He was shooting Jayson Tatum in Jayson's home. So we had a whole different situation there because we didn't have a lot of time in the location. And we also have to be respectful of the fact that we're in his home. So, you can light and you can make adjustments and everything, but it's like at the same time, you're in somebody's house. You, on the other hand, had a more studio environment, even though it still was a home, but the purpose of it was to be used as a filming studio.
Right.
And Francisco in Orlando had somebody's home as well. So in those situations, now I know you had a more studio environment, but I'm curious, just from your perspective, when you're filming in somebody's home and you have very limited time, what kind of lighting setup do you bring in order to accommodate those kind of obstacles?
Oh, man. If it's limited, I'll have to definitely be limited, but it depends. So knowing the type of the person's, in this case, a celebrity, if I'm going to go to his house, I'm going to assume I have a little bit of room to work with. Maybe I would have brought something battery powered so I don't have to be plugging in the outlet if I need to be moving fast to search around for the correct spot.
it's not necessarily about the gear. And in my experience, because I've done this quite a bit, when you just have very little time, you're in somebody's home. I'm not so worried about the type of equipment. I mean, obviously I want good quality stuff, but for me, it's more about being mobile.
Sure.
It's more about being battery powered, so I can get in and out. Large, soft light sources, just get in there, blast some light, and go.
Yeah.
And I think for something like this, that was perfect. Now I know Chris in Boston, Chris Lochran, he was using just a big silk, and he had some LED panels that created that kind of soft, big light.
Oh, nice.
And the reality is, we're working with celebrities. I mean, people are watching, and it's going to look good, and it has to look good.
Yeah.
But their eyes are locked on the celebrity. That's the reason that they're watching this. So regardless of how beautiful that background is, it's all about the celebrity.
Yeah, I think in cases like that, that's where experience really comes into play. When you're able to walk into a room, scan around before placing anything, and automatically know where your best shot is going to be, when you know how to discern depth and angles and composition based on just looking with your eyes, you can see it before you even set the camera. That's really going to help you shed time in the setup. You already know what's going to look horrible if you try to go in that direction, or just because there's just not enough room to back up to get that depth, that you're probably trying to achieve. So you have to go a different direction. So experience really helps in that arena.
I want to talk about being in locations that you cannot scout ahead of time, because that's what we dealt with here. We had quite a few obstacles, having to get 2 camera angles, working with celebrities, working with very little time, and not having the ability to scout these locations. So how do you deal with that?
You know what? That's like every job of mine for the most part. Most of the time.
So you're perfect for it.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was talking about, where just about every job I do, I'm walking in there for the first time, trying to find the best location, trying to find the best place of the space that I have to work with, and start asking, hey, can we move? How much can we move? And I always discern, like, if it's a big light source that I'm getting from a nice window, that helps save a lot of time. However, that comes with the added obstacle of where's the sun going to be by the time we start hitting record, and where's it going to be by the end of it. So I definitely consider that. Where's east, where's west, and where's that sun? That's something that you definitely, if you don't already do that, definitely start paying attention to that, because when you're using a big light, a big window source, it's beautiful when you start, but consider that how much clouds are outside. So is it going to be shifting a lot on you? So things like that, that's kind of how I deal with. That's really what I do. I don't really scout often. So that's the funny part.
This app right here, Sunseeker, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
This is a lifesaver, because you can get a really good idea of where the sun will be. Like if you put it in 3D mode, you can move the phone around to the exact window that is going to be there and see where the sun is in relation to the window.
Oh, wow.
So you can actually see the track of the sun as noted by a line in the app that covers over the area that you're looking at. So it's an amazing app, and it's a really great way to be like, okay, when is the sun coming through? So I highly recommend that. I don't know how much it is. I don't think it's super expensive. Sunseeker. It's a great app for location scouting, and even just when you're there, just be like, all right, is the sun, we're here for 2 hours. Where's the sun going to be 2 hours from now?
Right.
It's a really valuable tool, and I know a lot of you guys have heard about it, but if you haven't, check it out, Sunseeker.
There you go.
I want to talk about, celebrity talent. How are you in situations like this when you're dealing with high-profile talent right there in the room with you?
Right.
I mean, do you get nervous? How do you react?
I don't know. I treat them just like I would treat any other person. Just like any other person, they walk into the room. I get because they're the talent, whatever. I get a feel for them. Are they very reserved? Do they not want conversation? or are they cool? Are they, very talkative? Are they extroverts where they, kind of want to get to know you? And, I go off of that, and I just get a feel for that. Obviously, I never go and ask for their autograph. I don't even do that, even if I'm working. I just don't do that, or even ask for a picture with them. I think it was funny. I think
it's better that way.
Oh yeah, that's good. I think the biggest star that I shot that I had it was now that I talk about it, I think it's funny. I was shooting with Nicky Jam apparently, and I don't listen to his music. I didn't know who he was. I don't know anything.
I don't know who that is either.
Right, and apparently he's a big guy. And when I told people that I just shot with Nicky Jam, they're like, "What? Are you kidding me?" And it's funny because I was hired by, I think it was ABC or something, a big news outlet. And I was there with the reporter. And before we got into the house and I said hello to him. He walked away for a second. And then I asked the reporter, who's this guy again? What is he known for? I'm whispering. She looks at me like, Nicky.
He's huge.
Nicky Jam.
Ariel, 25 million monthly listeners on Spotify. I have no idea who this person is.
I know.
And he's from Boston.
I know. Is he? But he has a studio.
Yes.
I know. And then I looked him up while he walked away for a second. I'm like, oh, this is Nicky Jam? Oh, look at him. He has a lot of stuff. So that's
crazy.
That's literally how it was.
The biggest celebrity I had interviewed and directed was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Nice.
That was pretty wild.
Right.
I mean, he's just so huge anyway. Like, he's just such a presence, and he's gigantic.
Yeah.
So that was
guy.
weird. And that was that was an early job for me. And that was one of the first times dealing with anybody at that level of celebrity.
Yeah.
And it was definitely intimidating. And not because I'm a giant sports fan, but you just know him. Like, everybody knows him.
I think the biggest I've ever worked with was maybe Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz was a big one. And again, he's a sort of reserved one as well. I think I don't know if it was his agent or something, was more of a prima donna than he was. But then I've been with Pitbull several times, and Shakira, she's cool, she's fun. And the most surprising one for me was Enrique Iglesias. The guy was
surprising how?
He was moving grip stands and lights during the setup because he wants to get the shot.
No way.
Yeah, dude. When we wanted to change the shot a little bit, the grip guys would go get the lights and start moving, and he goes and helps them a little bit, and he looks at the monitor with the director, and he talks to the director of photography. Like, the guy gets into it too. Very, very humble guy. Very surprising, honestly.
That's cool. So there you go.
Really
That's why you don't get starstruck. You're constantly interviewing celebrities. My God. Look at you.
Yeah. Those are fun ones. Those bigger ones, I don't post too much about it, obviously. But
well, you can't. I mean, even this, they sort of said don't post anything until the 3 weeks or so after we shot it. Like, that happens quite a bit. That's pretty normal.
Yeah.
All right. I want to bring in Mike Heid. He's the creative director from agency Sleek Machine. And I want to talk with him and you about the agency relationship between agency client and also agency and production company, because that's a really important relationship. And guys, we are going to talk about the giant problem we had with the camera failing the file being corrupted. This project could have been a disaster. And we're going to tell you exactly how we fixed that huge problem in just a couple of minutes. So let me bring Mike in here. Let's see if I can get this to work. So I want to bring in Mike Heid into the conversation now. Mike is a creative director at Sleek Machine, the ad agency, and was the creative director for this project, City Ties for New Era. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Good to be here.
What are you looking for when you partner with production companies? What are the qualities that you seek as an ad agency, and particularly a creative director, when you look for partners for production?
So, a lot of times I'll be looking for more of a creative collaborator, be it a director or someone. And where I'm looking specifically at, their creative work, and what have they done? What do they bring to an idea that can really elevate it beyond anything that we had thought of? It was slightly different in this situation because here I was going to be essentially directing. And so what I needed on this, in this case, was to find a production company that I trusted and knew, because I knew that this was going to be a logistical nightmare. So like trying to shoot in 3 locations, with DPs I've never met, and not myself being able to be there in person is tough. And so I wanted to rely on partners that I knew were a known commodity. And so that kind of led me to Jim Buckley from Bucko Productions and Ben yourself, who, we'd worked together in the past. And I know how buttoned up you guys are. And knowing that just gave me confidence in kind of going with you guys to kind of pull this off.
So Ariel, from your perspective out there in Miami while we're shooting this, what do you need as a cinematographer, as a director of photography in this case? What do you need from Mike to be successful on your end?
Yeah, so right off the bat, Mike was already giving me all the right information. He said they wanted depth. Well, he kept saying blurry background, make it blurrier, but you wanted depth essentially. And luckily for us, we had a lot of room to work with, so that was a no-brainer. More than anything was just that how much depth they wanted, the sort of style and look and vibe that they were going for. It was supposed to look like a house, like a home. So
you can look at as many pictures as you want. It doesn't give you a sense of a space. And so we really rely on you to say, okay, here's the space. And it is tough. Again, when I'm not there, because if I'm there, I'm like, okay, I like this. But you guys, you guys were great.
I think any adjustment that I had to make, I was tethered onto my laptop the entire time. So if I needed to move the camera, I had to move the laptop, had to go with it. So I had to disconnect, move the camera, make that adjustment that you're looking for, then bring the laptop back to the camera, reconnect it. And then additionally, there's 2 cameras. So after we got the first camera set up, then we had to look for that second camera to set up and moving the laptop back and forth. And yeah, definitely the time that we had to work was very, very useful to begin with, because it definitely it was a process.
There has to be a lot of trust there too, because like you said, Mike, you're not there. And I know just from being in kind of your seat occasionally, you're thinking to yourself like, okay, I know I said, I said, look for the best shot you can. I trust that they're going to be able to do that. But there's still that part of you that's like itching away saying, is there another angle? Is there something else there that I would pick up if I was in the room? So there's a lot of trust and kind of loss of control too, which is difficult for me. I mean, how did you deal with that, being kind of remotely directing and not really being able to see the spaces?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely tough. I mean, the first shot we set up, it looked really nice, but it wasn't exactly what I was seeing. I mean, and this goes back, Ben, to your question about what do we look for in production companies. So this is more what we find out after having worked with one, and what makes us go back is, Ariel and his team, whatever we asked for, it wasn't, there was no pushback in terms of, he told us if something wasn't going to work or if something, but it was never a pushback of like, no, I don't want to do that. I really appreciated that about working with Ariel and his team, and the other crews in the other cities were very flexible, because I did know, like, when you move, it's like, hey, can you move it a little bit? It's like, okay, sure. I got to break down everything to get it done. So that's a huge thing for me with working with production companies. But like I said, it's something you find out after doing it the first time.
Now, we had a giant problem on this shoot, and one of the cameras died. It just died. In our Orlando location, a camera died in the middle of this interview. And we were not in a situation where we didn't have unlimited time. I mean, we're working with celebrities. They had carved out a very small window of time of their day to do this thing. And a camera went down. Ultimately we were able to fix it and all is great. And the videos came out fantastic. But for a while there, everyone was nervous. And I mean,
oh man,
we're nervous for sure. I'm horrified. I'm like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. How are you feeling in that moment, Mike? I mean, you have to relay confidence to your client, knowing that there's a chance that one whole camera is dead. How do you navigate that?
It definitely was stressful on my end because I wanted to make sure we were getting the best possible video, and making sure that the stuff we reshot would cut right. Was definitely in my head. But having the clients we did that are very understanding and willing to jump in and help out was critical. That could have gone poorly if you don't have the right people. And I really appreciated you guys putting in the legwork at the end to recover the video that you did. Because,
yeah. So just to bring people up to speed, what ended up happening was we had 2 cameras, like we've been saying, on each person. Our host, Quentin Richardson, was in Orlando, and we had 2 cameras on him. Our A cam, which is where all the audio came from, and our B cam, which was just a side angle. Our A cam died, and we were panicked because we didn't know until they took a little bit of a break. That's when we found out, okay, wait a minute, our camera died. We were using FS7s. There's a little tip for you guys. When you use an FS7, and this might be the case for a few different cameras, but for FS7 particularly, as long as you don't take the card out, you can restore the media in camera. But we took the card out because we didn't know that at the time. So the card was taken out.
Right.
We put it into the computer to see, and I'm saying I wasn't there, but the card was taken out. We were put into the computer to see, and the file was corrupt. We couldn't see it. Thankfully, Francisco knew not to reformat the card, and we just switched to another card. But what we ended up doing is we thought the angle's totally dead. So we refilmed the host's questions. But when you do that, you kind of lose the flow of the interview. And it was going to be an editing challenge, but it was our only workaround that we could get to happen at that moment. So at that point, and all the way through the end of that day, the following day, we had thought that was just the way that things were going to have to be. And it probably would have been fine. But we found this website called restore.media, restore.media. And apparently, it was $35 to do a 16 gigabyte card, and it was a drag and drop. We pressed the button, let it crank away, and at the end of about a day, we got a recovered file. So this was like, even the people that I know at Sony that I was talking to, they didn't think it was possible to recover this file. Everyone said it was impossible, but restore.media did it. And at the end of that process, we had a recovered file. And it just, like, working with you, Mike, and the Sleek Machine people, like, obviously, you knew that we were going to do everything we can to make this happen, but I also felt like just our relationship was such that you knew that it wasn't anyone's fault, and no one, purposely made anything happen, and we would have done anything we can to make it right. But, just having that relationship with you, I think, is important as well. So at the end of the day, it all worked out, but wow, was that scary.
Yeah, I mean,
it was very scary.
It was definitely scary for me. But to your point, the relationship between us and the relationship between us and our client, we knew we were going to get something and be able to cut something great. Getting those pickup shots, re-recording those was key to be able to give me a little comfort that we're going to have what we need.
Yep.
But at the end, when Jim called me and it's like, we were able to recover that footage. It was just like a little gift. I'm like, okay, great. This is awesome.
So let's go around the room, and Ariel, I'll start with you. What lesson did you learn on this project? We all learn lessons. Every project gives us something. What was the lesson you learned on this project?
Have a backup of everything, essentially, is the lesson that was the main lesson on that. As you mentioned a second ago, if something happens with the camera, don't take it out of the camera. Now I know, in the horrible nightmare that might ever happen to me, now I know, don't take it out of the camera. If it's a rental camera, test out the camera before you use it. That's actually something now I'm going to start practicing. I don't normally rent much, but if I ever do, if it's something like a full-on camera, test it out. This was the first time that I did an entire cinematography setup via Zoom. I've never done that before. Like literally showing every single shot through Zoom while tethered to the laptop.
And it won't be the last, because there's so many demands, especially now with COVID restrictions on set. This is going to become the new, well, I don't know if it's the new norm, but I think having a virtual component to every shoot moving forward is going to be really, really important. Mike, for you, I mean, what lessons did you learn on this project?
I think the biggest thing for me was the communication string was tough. And so, whether it was between myself and Jim from Bucko, or myself and you, Ben, or myself and the client, or myself and someone else from Sleek Machine, that was something that was definitely a challenge, and something I learned from going forward. The direction itself, that was the easy part. The hardest part for me was just communication between everybody. It was hard to be off camera, but also trying to talk to people in different ways. But I definitely learned a lot from that, and we'll take that into the next project that we do.
Yeah, I think that to piggyback off of your thing, the lesson I learned was similar to yours, and that communication was trickier because you really can't do it through Zoom, because that's where everybody is. Like we couldn't communicate through Zoom because then they would hear us, the talent.
Yeah, that was definitely the toughest part. Just trying to relay a message from the client to the right person in the right location. You know. But I really do think like next time we'll kind of have that worked out.
When you watch them, first of all, they're great. The content is awesome, and you guys have tons of views on this. You can find it on YouTube. Search for New Era Cap, and you'll see it. It's one of their channels. The content's great. And I know I've got an NBA fan in my life who has been watching them and saying that he absolutely loves it, and they're really, really good. So it's getting great response, and at the end of the day, they all came out awesome. But the whole point of this show is not just to talk about how great it was, but to talk about the struggles and how we got to where it was. And I know I learned a lot. It sounds like you guys did, and I hope you did too out there listening. So as we wrap up, let's just get our content out there. I had mentioned New Era Cap on YouTube. You can find it there, and of course, we'll put a link to it in the show notes. You can find us at gocreativeshow.com. Ariel, where can people find out more about you?
It's at ifilmmakerpodcast.com.
ifilmmakerpodcast.com. Perfect. And Mike, where can people find out more about you and Sleek Machine?
So our agency, you can learn, kind of check out our work at sleekmachine.com. That's sleekmachine.com. Yeah.
All right, I want to thank Ariel Martinez from the iFilmmaker podcast, and of course, Mike Heid from Sleek Machine. And thank all of you guys for watching. Please remember, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Everything we talked about today will be linked on the Go Creative Show website, so take a look at that. All things Go Creative Show are at gocreativeshow.com. And of course, don't forget, please check out the City Ties podcast. All of you guys that love the NBA, you're going to want to hear what these guys say. And now that you know how it was made, it's going to be even better. So thank you all for listening and watching. And we'll see you next time on another episode of Go Creative Show, the podcast for filmmakers.